He handed me the wine with a smile, but I saw her nod before he did it. And that was just the beginning. I started thinking back to when it all began. The glass trembled slightly as I lifted it, catching the glint of the chandelier above us. Her hand froze mid-toast, not my wife's, but her mother's. For just a second. A flinch, not fear, calculation. Then a smile, too wide, too white. "Drink," she said sweetly. "To family." I clinked glasses around the table, but when I reached for mine again, I swapped it with hers. Her smile faltered, just for a beat. She didn't drink. No one noticed, or pretended not to. The roast passed hands. The conversation moved to taxes, but I couldn't unsee it, the twitch in her cheek, the too smooth recovery. My wife leaned into me, whispering something about the salad. I nodded, mechanically. My eyes stayed on her mother. An hour later, when the plates were cleared and the dishes rattled in the sink, I went into the guest bathroom and poured the wine into a clean glass I'd brought from the car. I carried it out, past the coat rack, into the darkening parking lot, and stashed it in a thermal lunchbox I hadn't used in months. I zipped it shut. No one saw. Back inside, I laughed when her father told another recycled story about Harvard and hurricanes. I let them think I belonged, that I wanted to. But as we drove home, I kept checking the rearview mirror, half expecting headlights to accelerate and crush us from behind. "Are you okay?" my wife asked finally. I didn't answer. I couldn't. The silence settled between us like fog, not thick, just persistent. She went to bed early, said she had a headache. I sat in the living room alone, replaying the scene again and again. The nod, the glass, the smile that didn't reach her eyes. What was in that wine? And more importantly, what the hell was I supposed to do with the answer? The next morning, I took the lunchbox to a lab I knew from an old freelance project. I didn't give my real name, just paid in cash, and asked for a tox screen. I waited. 3 days. On the third day, I got a call. "We found traces of digoxin," the technician said. "High enough to cause arrhythmia, especially if mixed with alcohol." He paused. Was this for a pet? I hung up. That night, I stood in front of our bathroom mirror and stared at my own reflection. My wife was brushing her teeth behind me, humming softly. So normal, so unaware. Or was she? I watched her in the reflection. Her movements, her eyes. Nothing suspicious, just serene. But my skin itched with the memory of that dinner, of her mother's smile. And I thought, when exactly did I stop being a guest and start being the enemy? Then something colder settled in me. If she tried to poison me once, what stopped her from trying again? And worse, what if I wasn't even the first? I needed answers. But first, I needed to figure out how deep this went, how long it had been going on, and who, exactly, was still pretending they didn't see it. The next morning, I played along, made coffee, kissed her cheek, drove to work with the radio on just loud enough to drown out my thoughts. But I didn't go to the office. Instead, I parked 2 blocks from her parents' house and waited. They left together around 10 a.m., her father in a stiff gray blazer, her mother in that same camel trench she wore to every function. They moved like a team, synchronized, polished, insincere. I followed at a distance, heart pulsing in my throat. They stopped at a local market. I watched from inside a bookstore across the street, pretending to leaf through a photo essay on abandoned theme parks. Her mother lingered by the supplements aisle. Her father made calls, always separate, never touching. It was only when they left that I realized they didn't buy anything. Back at their house, I walked the perimeter, checked windows, mailbox. Nothing suspicious, until I noticed the small side door slightly ajar. A gardener's entrance, maybe, or a mistake. I didn't think. I just slipped inside. The house was silent, immaculate, too immaculate. I moved through the kitchen, past the marble island and down the hall. A sharp scent of bleach, fresh flowers on every surface, like a showroom, not a home. Then I found it, a locked drawer in the study. It wasn't curiosity, it was certainty. I picked it open with a paperclip from my wallet, hands shaking, heart flatlining in my chest. Inside, photographs, dozens. My wife, me, other men, strangers, all smiling beside her in different seasons, different years, and every photo had something in common. Same framing, same angles, same distance, all taken from afar. I stared, then flipped them over, dates, annotations, crossed out names, too passive, too independent, too close, and next to my name, still malleable. For now. I sank to the floor, the photos slipping from my fingers like ash. This wasn't overprotection. It was curation. She was curating her daughter's life like a portfolio. And I was just the latest candidate. I remembered the wine glass, the nod, the pause. It wasn't personal. It was protocol. Later that evening, I sat beside my wife on the couch as she scrolled through her phone, feet tucked under her, eyes soft. I studied her profile, the curve of her cheek, the way she tilted her head. Did she know? Was she complicit? Or just conditioned? I needed to talk to someone. But who? I ended up calling Julian, an old friend from grad school, neuropsychologist, sharp, detached, exactly what I needed. "You're not crazy," he said after I spilled it all. "This is covert abuse. She's been raised in a controlled environment. You're a threat to that." I laughed bitterly. "What do I do?" He paused. "Collect everything. Keep copies, stay polite, and don't confront. Not yet." That night, I started backing up emails, printing text threads, photographing the photographs. And for the first time, I let myself admit it. This wasn't a family. It was a regime. And I was done following orders. I started small. I stopped answering her mother's texts immediately. Delayed replies. Neutral tone. No emojis. I watched the read receipts. They stayed blue longer than usual. Then I canceled dinner. No excuse. Just, we won't make it. Her father called 2 hours later. Didn't leave a message. I felt it. The ripple in their control. Not a wave. Just the beginning of one. My wife noticed. "Did something happen?" she asked over breakfast, pouring oat milk into her coffee. I paused, stirred mine. "Just tired of pretending everything's normal." She blinked, not surprised, not angry, just quiet. We didn't talk about it again. Instead, I kept going. I installed a camera in my studio, password-protected backups. I started labeling files not by project, but by date and location, just in case. And then, I went back to the drawer. This time, I took photos of everything. Scanned documents, notes in the margins of a leather-bound planner, pages marked treatment options and relational strategies. I nearly vomited when I found one marked with our wedding date. Test loyalty through isolation, family withdrawal if resistance persists. They were planning responses before the ceremony. This wasn't interference, it was strategy. And then came the final shove. I found the letters, not addressed to me, but to her. One for every boyfriend she'd had. Typed, formal, always the same tone. "You deserve better. He doesn't understand your needs. We only want what's best. Please don't tell him." All of them signed, Mom and Dad, and the pattern. It was always the same. She'd date, fall in love, bring him home. Then the pressure started, the nudges, the doubts, the health concerns, the bad vibes, until they cracked, until they left. Except me, and now I knew why they'd resorted to poison. Because I stayed. I showed the letters to Julian, His reaction was instant. You need to tell her. She'll shut down. Maybe. Or maybe it's the thing that finally wakes her up. I waited a week. Then I printed 3 letters, put them in a plain envelope, left it on our kitchen table with a single post-it. I think you should see this. And I left the house. No text, no call. I just drove. 4 hours. Nowhere in particular. Just away. When I came back, the envelope was gone. She was sitting on the couch, pale, hollow, her eyes red. She didn't look at me when she spoke. How many? Dozens. Silence. Since when? Before me. Longer silence. And then, her voice cracked. They told me I was fragile, that I attract the wrong kind of men, They lied. She looked at me then. I don't know what's real anymore. And I said the only thing I could. We start from here. She nodded. Once. But something broke in her that day. Not shattered, just released. And I realized this wasn't about revenge. It was about freedom. Ours. We didn't speak to them for weeks. No texts, no calls, no explanations. It drove them mad. First came the guilt trips. Your father isn't well. We miss our Sunday dinners. You know we only want the best for you. Then the baiting. We saw your latest post. Are you okay? Don't let him isolate you like the others did. We're worried. Finally, the threat. A letter, hand-delivered. If you continue down this path, we may need to reconsider certain financial arrangements. Think carefully about your future. I watched her read it in silence. Then she folded it in half, walked to the fireplace, and burned it without a word. That was the moment I knew we'd crossed over. Not healed, but awake. We started documenting everything. Every message. Every attempt to manipulate. She wrote down memories she'd buried for years, times they shamed her body, her art, her silence. We built a file. Not for court. For clarity. And then we found them. The others. An ex from college. A brief boyfriend from her early 20s. Even a woman. Her first crush. All of them had received the same coldness. The same sabotage. I tracked one of them down. Elias. Photographer. Married now. Stable. We met in a quiet cafe downtown. I didn't record. Just listened. She changed after meeting them, he said. Got smaller. Like she had to make space for their voices in her head. He paused. I loved her, but they made me feel like I was a virus. I thanked him, and when I told her, she didn't cry. She just said, I thought I was the virus. Her parents didn't go quietly. They showed up at my gallery opening, uninvited. Her mother in a tailored navy suit, her father in that tired gray blazer. I was talking to a curator when I saw them across the room, smiling, posing, as if they belonged. I excused myself and walked straight up. You're not welcome here, I said, low and direct. Her mother's smile froze. Oh, come now, this is a public space. Not tonight. She glanced around, saw the guests, the press. Her father stepped in. Don't make a scene. I held his gaze. That's your specialty, not mine. And walked away. They left 5 minutes later. That night, I found her on the roof of our building, looking out over the city. They came? I nodded. She took a breath. Did you tell them off? No. She looked over, startled. I told them the truth. It's more permanent. She smiled, the first real one in weeks. We stood in silence for a long time. Then she said, I want to write them a letter. I tensed. But not for them, for me. I nodded. She wrote it over 2 days. It wasn't angry, It wasn't polite, it was honest. She didn't send it. She framed it, hung it in her studio. A declaration of autonomy. We were no longer trying to be understood. We were done performing approval. Now we were choosing. Each other, ourselves. And no one, no parent, no past, was going to rewrite that. 3 months later, we hosted our first gathering. Just friends, no family, no pressure. The gallery was quiet when we arrived, early as always. She set up candles along the windowsills. I adjusted the lighting. We moved like a unit, a quiet choreography born from surviving something unspoken. Guests arrived slowly. Colleagues, old classmates, artists, neighbors. Laughter filled the space. No tension, no watching our words. For the first time, we belonged somewhere without auditioning for it. Later that night, as the last few lingered with wine in hand, she pulled me aside. "Come," she whispered. She led me to the back of the gallery, past a curtain, into the storage alcove. A single canvas stood there, new, unfinished, but unmistakably hers. It was a portrait, abstract, raw, a woman with 2 shadows, one pulling her back, one pushing her forward, and between them, a crack of light. "You painted this?" She nodded. "It's not for sale." "Why not?" "Because it's not for them." She traced the edge of the frame. "It's a promise." We stood there in silence, the hum of the crowd distant now, like a memory that no longer hurt. Outside, the city pulsed, alive and indifferent. We had no illusions. They hadn't changed. They wouldn't apologize. But that was the point. We didn't need them to. We had made it out, not untouched, but untethered. And that was enough. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't victory. It was a quiet morning 3 years later, when I held my daughter's hand at the museum, and she tugged me toward the light installation. "Look, Daddy," she said. "It's like the one in your gallery." I nodded. Behind us, her mother smiled. We didn't speak of the past anymore. But we remembered, in what we chose to build, who we chose to protect, and most of all, what we no longer allowed near her. She would never drink from anyone's glass but her own.